Namaste and welcome to Sutra Network. In today's special segment, we'll discuss about weapons in space, the secret war above our heads. Have you ever stepped outside at night, looked up at the stars and wondered what's really happening out there? Because the sky above us, this calm, dark, peaceful looking place is not as empty as it seems. Satellites drift silently thousands of miles overhead, but they are accompanied by a surveillance system, military platforms, and technologies most people have never heard of. Countries around the world are preparing for a kind of conflict that won't happen on land or sea or even in the air, but high above the Earth in orbit. So today, we are going to explore a topic that hardly gets discussed, yet impacts every one of us. Weapons in outer space. What they are, why they are being developed, how they work, and what a real conflict in orbit would actually look like. And we'll do it in a simple, understandable, and conversational way. What counts as a space weapon? When people hear space weapons, their minds often go to science fiction, huge laser cannons, giant battle stations, futuristic death rays. But the reality is far more grounded and, honestly, far more concerning. A space weapon doesn't have to look advanced or alien. The simplest definition is this: a space weapon is any tool, either on Earth or in orbit, that can damage, disable, or interfere with something in space. That could be a missile launched from the ground, a satellite that can approach or manipulate other satellites, a form of signal interference, or even a cyber attack that takes control of a spacecraft. If it affects satellites or uses space as a platform to affect Earth, it falls into the realm of space warfare. Why space matters so much? We rarely think about how much of our lives depend on space. Satellites run almost everything we rely on daily, like the GPS on your phone, online banking, airline flight paths, shipping routes, weather forecast, emergency communication, internet services. These all rely on satellites. If satellites suddenly went down, we would feel it instantly. Your phone wouldn't know where you are. Bank transactions would fail. Planes could lose navigation. Weather tracking would fall apart. And that's just the civilian side. Military operations depend heavily on satellites too. Everything from detecting missile launches to guiding precision weapons, coordinating troops, and securing communications. Without satellites, a modern military loses awareness, coordination, and timing. It's like cutting the tendons of a giant. You don't have to strike the body if you can disable its ability to move. Because of that, satellites become extremely valuable targets, and the temptation to interfere with them is only growing. The danger of direct ascent anti-satellite missiles. One of the oldest and most visible types of space weapon is the direct ascent anti-satellite missile. These are fired from the ground, travel up through the atmosphere, and collide with satellites at massive speeds. They don't need explosives because hitting something at thousands of miles per hour is destructive enough. Several countries, including the United States, Russia, China, and India, have tested this kind of weapon. But every time they do, they create a huge problem, that is, debris. When a satellite explodes in orbit, its fragments don't burn up or disappear. They stay up there, traveling fast enough to tear through metal. A single test can create thousands of pieces of debris, each of them a tiny bullet in orbit, capable of taking out another satellite. So while these missiles are powerful, they are also incredibly risky because the destruction they cause can affect everyone. The rise of orbital anti-satellite systems. Even more concerning than ground-launched missiles are weapons that live in orbit. These are known as orbital anti-satellite systems, and they are designed to move around space and interfere with other satellites up close. Some have robotic arms that can grab, push, or detach components. Others can maneuver incredibly close to the targets, quietly shadowing them. These are often described as inspector satellites, but suspicious movements have raised doubts about their intended purpose. Imagine a satellite silently drifting within arm's reach of another nation's spacecraft. This is an enormous strategic threat. And then there are satellites designed simply to collide with others, essentially kamikaze spacecraft. Others might release small pellets into a rival satellite's orbit, creating a delayed collision that looks like an accident. These systems are subtle, quiet, and hard to track, making them one of the most unsettling developments in space warfare. Attacking without touching, that is, jamming and spoofing. Physical destruction isn't the only way to attack in space. Some of the most effective methods are completely invisible, like jamming. For example, it involves overwhelming a satellite's receivers with noise so it can't send or receive signals. Spoofing takes it a step further by sending false signals instead. GPS spoofing can make a ship believe it's miles away from its real location. Aircraft, drones, even ground vehicles can be tricked this way. These attacks leave no debris and no visible damage, making them hard to detect and even harder to attribute to a specific country. Yet they can cause chaos without a single shot being fired. Cyber attacks hacking the heavens. Every satellite is controlled through commands sent from the ground. That means if you can hack the ground station or intercept the communication link, you can control the satellite itself. A successful cyber attack could shut down a satellite, redirect it, shut off its sensors, or even use it for surveillance. Unlike missiles or physical weapons, cyber attacks are quiet. They don't create visible explosions, they don't leave wreckage, and they are incredibly hard to prove, which makes them one of the most dangerous forms of space warfare today. Lasers and microwaves, direct energy in space. This is where things start to sound futuristic, but directed energy weapons are already here. Several nations have developed ground-based laser systems that can target satellite sensors, temporarily blinding them or damaging their cameras. High-powered microwaves can fry a satellite's electronics without needing to strike it physically. These weapons operate at the speed of light, making them extremely fast and difficult to avoid. And because they don't destroy the entire satellite, their effects can be subtle or temporary, making them ideal tools for a world that wants plausible deniability. The myth and mystery of rods from God. There's one concept in space warfare that almost sounds like an urban legend, that is, rods from God. The idea is simple but terrifying. You place a massive, dense metal rod, often imagined as tungsten, in orbit. When it's time to strike a target, you simply let it fall. Gravity does the rest. By the time it reaches Earth's surface, it's hitting with the force of a small nuclear explosion, just without the radiation or fallout. There's no evidence that such a weapon has ever been deployed, and it would be extremely expensive. But the concept itself shows how powerful orbital physics can be. It's one of the most extreme examples of using space not just to watch Earth, but to directly attack it. The threat of nuclear EMP in space. A nuclear explosion in space doesn't behave the way it does on Earth. There's no firewall, no shockwave. Instead, the radiation spreads rapidly and creates a massive electromagnetic pulse that can disable or destroy satellites across a huge region. One nuclear detonation could take out multiple satellite networks in an instant. That's why placing nuclear weapons in orbit is banned. But the risk is always present. The growing danger of space debris. All of this leads us to one of the most important and least appreciated problems in space, that is, debris. Every destroyed satellite becomes a swarm of fragments. Each fragment can destroy another satellite. That destruction creates even more debris, which can then destroy even more satellites. This chain reaction is known as the Kessler syndrome, and in the worst case scenario, it could render entire orbits unusable for decades. A war in space wouldn't just affect the nations involved, it would affect the entire planet's ability to use satellites for communication, navigation, and science. Why we rarely hear about any of this? Space warfare is politically sensitive, scientifically complex, and globally destabilizing. Nations don't want to talk about it because admitting they are building space weapons could escalate tension. And if one country starts deploying weapons openly, others might follow. For that reason, governments tend to be vague or silent about their true capabilities. But make no mistake, space is becoming militarized, not in dramatic, cinematic ways, but in subtle, quiet ways that will shape the future of technology and conflict. The future above our heads. The next time you look up at the calm, peaceful night sky, remember that things aren't always what they seem. High above our heads, satellites and spacecraft are drifting silently, keeping our world connected, but also living in an environment where tensions grow year by year. We depend on space more than ever, and that makes it more valuable than ever. Whether a real conflict happens up there is something we can only hope never becomes a reality. Because once a war begins in orbit, its consequences would reach every corner of life on Earth. For more such videos, subscribe to our channel, press the bell icon